Good evening, welcome to another edition of the Gersnet Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast. By fans, for fans, where all the content is absolutely free. Coming to you in association with Forrest Precision Engineering. I'm your host tonight, Brian Archer, and as always, we'd encourage you to get onto the Gersnet website and check out our forums for all your latest Rangers news and discussion. We're live tonight on the YouTube channel, and we'd ask that you continue to share the pod on social media, spread the word, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Before I introduce my guest for tonight, I need to give another mention to our partners over at Forrest Precision Engineering. They're a Glasgow-based engineering company who have been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for a number of years, and we're delighted to have them supporting the pod. If you want more information about them, please visit their website over at www.forestprecisioneng.com. They also have a stunning executive lounge in the Ibrox main stand, and for more information on that, email the club at hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Also, just to highlight, there'll be a food bank collection at Ibrox before the Dundee game on Saturday the 9th of December. It's for a great cause, guys, so please give generously if you're able to do so. Right, time to bring in my guest for tonight. Joining me is the stats guru himself, Mr. Alex Anderson. Alex, it's been a while since we've been on together. How have you been keeping?
It's fine, mate. I think since the last time I remember the last time we were on, you asked me at the beginning of the programme that same really passive-aggressive, nasty question. How you doing? You know, so it must have been a bad result that was coming after as well, you know, earlier on this season. Because it's just, I mean, how are you doing? Asking me how I'm doing. We're going to talk about Christmas trees and shopping and all that. No, it's just it's going to be 2 weeks until we can actually rectify what we did last night. It's going to be 48 hours before the team can do anything to make up for it. And I just, the small talk and all that, I can't do it, mate. I'm feeling absolutely miserable with that result last night. And it's just the way it's been going all season at Rangers, up and down, up and down. I was so looking forward to that game last night. And at the end of the day, I was just absolutely devastated. And I've actually cheered myself up by watching the game back, because it wasn't actually as bad as I thought it was. You know, so that's how dark things are, mate. It's I'm only joking, mate. How's yourself, Brian? You can give us a genuine answer.
I'm doing well. Just, looking forward to Christmas, same as everyone else. I think the listeners probably would prefer if we talk about Christmas shopping, Christmas trees. But unfortunately,
I just want us to be on together for once, when it's just like, it was absolutely brilliant last night, wasn't it? That was a great result of the weekend there. Let's get in about it. But you and me as a team, we missed that boat, mate. We missed it.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, we do need to speak about last night's game. For me, hugely disappointing result and performance on the night. I don't know about yourself, but I felt like we started the game reasonably brightly in the first 10 minutes, but things just seem to break down for us as soon as we get into the final third. I mean, what did you think of the game overall before we get into specific talking points? And there's plenty of those.
It was a kind of slow unravelling, Brian. I try to cheer the listeners up. I think I've written it down. So Cyprus is famous as a holiday, a honeymoon destination. And last night, I think it's appropriate that a team from Cyprus ended the honeymoon for Philippe Clement. So there you go. That's a kind of free. That's free part of the game. That's free comedy genius here on Gersnet. It was awful, mate. I just was so. I say I've watched it back, and it wasn't that awful. The result obviously is awful. The performance was not the best at all, but I was so up for it. I was sitting watching Sparta Prague against Betis before I left, and I was thinking, what do I want to happen here? What do I want to happen? And it's quite good instinctively when Sparta Prague scored. I thought, I back Rangers. I think Rangers are going to be able to win this tonight, no problem. That slip up we had at Pittodrie, that's this new manager we've got, he's actually going to learn from that. We're going to come out tonight, all guns blazing. What Aris did to us in the first game, we're going to take that out on them. We're going to get revenge for that big time. It's going to be like night and day, and we're going to go top of the group tonight. I was delighted when I got to Ibrox and I found out that was the final score, and then it all petered out, and you see it started brightly, then just started going backwards basically, and then you end up they're getting substitutions, getting booed, the players are getting booed in the tunnel at half time, there's booing at full time. And after all the positivity of the way Clement started before the international break, how have we got back to this situation? But hopefully it's just a temporary 2-game glitch.
Yeah, I was a bit like yourself. I was really up for it. I didn't go to the game. I watched it in the house. But yeah, I was looking forward to it, hoping that we would kind of put Sunday's disappointing performance behind us. First thing we'll speak about, I want to touch on, was the team selection. For me, there's a few surprises in there. I was surprised to see Lammers come back in, Lawrence dropping out, and Cantwell remaining to play out on the right. There was a second game in a row where I was kind of questioning the manager's starting lineup. I think since he's come in, as you say, we've had that honeymoon period. He's kind of got everyone on side. There's not really been a lot of questions being asked because we've, played pretty well in the main. We've been getting positive results, but this was kind of the first time for me I was maybe starting to ask some questions. What did you think of the team selection you went with?
I've got to be honest, I was intrigued. I was intrigued to see Lammers back in at 10. Everything else, I think, and Cantwell back out in the right-hand side, it's something I was asking Craig about last week when Craig and I were doing the Aberdeen game preview pod. Just what does he think about the whole situation? Is there something with Lammers that we're not seeing? Is he actually better than we realise? Because I think the rest of the team picked itself. The centre halves, the manager's got his hands tied there because of. I thought it was interesting the way he reacted in the pre-match presser. Was it Wednesday when he was asked about the fact he doesn't have Leon Balogun, doesn't have Ridvan Yilmaz because of the previous manager. He's obviously this is his third European game in charge. The previous two press conferences before the previous two European games he's been in charge of, he's answered that same question quite diplomatically. But on Wednesday, he kind of snorted as if to say, what the hell? I was saying this in my reaction pod last night. What is that? This clown has just totally hamstrung me by not having these guys in the squad, particularly Balogun. Suspension to Goldson, as we knew. So no surprise with the two centre-halves coming in. I'm concerned, but no surprises again with the two sitting in midfield, because I think Cifuentes is all we've got. We've got to get somebody to go in there beside Lundstrom, particularly when you've got a centre-half pairing that's not been playing a lot this season, or ever really together. We need Lundstrom to be able to go in there and do his kind of auxiliary centre-half bit. So even though Lundstrom and Cifuentes, particularly Lundstrom, I think played poorly at Pataudry, no surprise that he was back in there last night. Absolutely fine with it. I wanted Danilo to be up front. I wanted Sima to be in the left-hand side. And it was I just found it interesting. I understand. I think the manager explained that himself in his post-match presser last night. Why didn't he start with McCausland? I wasn't one of these folk that was totally gunning for McCausland to be out there on the right. I think he wants it to be Scott Wright. I think that's the answer to the whole conundrum there. It just doesn't have Scott Wright available. So it was interesting. I think was Lammers eventually getting phased out, and Tom Lawrence was coming in now as the 10. But he's getting rested, and as the manager again said in his post-match presser, because he's been out for a while, Tom Lawrence. So I wasn't really overly surprised by anything. I was just intrigued to see him persisting with Lammers at 10 and Cantwell outright. But I had no idea it was going to go the way it did.
Yeah, I was kind of the same with yourself. As I mentioned earlier, I feel that we started the game with a reasonable tempo, but as soon as we get into the final third, it seemed to break down, and it was something that was kind of a theme of the entire night, that once we get into that final third, our last pass or our final shot is just nowhere near good enough. Is it a bit of a concern for you that in the last two games we seem to have lost any fluency in attack that we'd kind of been building up under Clement? We obviously beat Hearts quite well at Hampden, and then we had the positive result away to Dundee. We scored a few goals. I kind of felt like he was making progress in our attack, and we seemed to be playing a bit better. I felt like I started to see what a Rangers goal could look like under Clement in terms of the build-up play. And these last two games, I don't really want to overemphasise it or catastrophise it, because it is just two games. But I think it's fair to say that after the international break, we just seem to have lost that kind of momentum we've been building.
It used to be it was a 3-week break. It used to be the winter break was what slowed us down, and now it's just a national break is all it takes. International break. Started fine. First early seconds, we got the shot on goal. Fusima turns out it was offsides, kind of tight angle, whatever. Their goalkeeper's acting as if he'd been poleaxed, and I thought, this is fine. This is the way it's going to go. We're looking sharp, but as you say, it ends up at the start of the second half before we get a goal, and we've had to go through a major political upheaval with the substitution to get there, and we don't build in that either. And absolutely, I think, as you're saying, there's a beautiful way of putting it, Brian. You started to believe, you started to understand, what a Philip Clement goal was going to look like, a goal under him, what it was going to be like. The way we blew away Hearts at Hampden, I think, was the kind of peak almost of I know we scored more goals against Hibs in his first game. We scored more goals against Dundee at Dens Park, but that neutral venue against a better team in a kind of pressure game ever since Celtic went out of the League Cup, it's big pressure for us to win this trophy. And we'd had a kind of slow first half, a neck and neck first half with Hearts in that game, and came out second half and just did them after taking off Todd Cantwell, it must be said, at half time. But we ripped them to pieces in short order. But a quarter of an hour, we scored the 3 goals. And you're thinking, yeah, we look like we're savvy, we look like we're streetwise, we look like we could score these goals whenever we need to score them.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't happening last night at all. The manager himself was talking about lack of execution, and we're going to talk about Cantwell, obviously. And I think that's what it's all about, lack of execution. And people are screaming at this, the screen already. But what about Lamar's lack of execution? Aye, absolutely, 100%. They're just blunt. We just looked blunt this last 2 games. We were pounding Aberdeen possession-wise. Aberdeen didn't get a single corner on Sunday. We get 5. It was like 70% possession, basically, we had in that game. And we just looked blunt for most of that game. And again, last night, absolutely a concern. I think it's one of these things that we just need a few more players back from injury. I think it's amazing how quickly it will turn, hopefully. But until it does turn, it is a real concern, mate, yes.
Yeah, that needing a few more players back from injury seems to be a permanent story with Rangers at the minute. But I do.
Sorry, Brian, I forgot to say, I think Sima and Danilo as well, I'm scared to have them dropped. I had been thinking Sima was starting to look knackered because I know the number of games he's been playing, and particularly games like in Prague, he had to work a horrendous shift. Didn't he know that his wife's just had a baby? This was something the manager was laying on his last night, and a few of the kind of slightly dodgy remarks he made in that post-match presser, they might not go down too well with Rangers fans after a bad result. Suddenly he's talking about the players' wives having babies, but I was being really hard on them last night. I thought they just completely fell out of the game in the heat of the moment. So I watched it back today. And usually only want to watch a game back, a European game, if you think, oh, it was a fantastic night, what a great night, and you want to lap it. But today, it wasn't a case of, oh, as podcasters, we'll watch it for you so you don't have to watch it back again. I actually was really interested to see if Rangers were as bad as I thought they were. Sima and Danilo kind of summed it up, because they weren't horrendously bad. They were getting in the positions, but Danilo in particular had a couple of real good chances in the second half where he just seemed to absorb the ball onto his head and into his feet and couldn't really get it out of his feet or whatever. And so I think they summed it up, and positionally and in terms of effort and all that, they were absolutely fine, but they ran out of steam and they were fairly blunt for the whole game. So I concern, mate, sorry.
Yeah, before we get on to talking about the substitution and all that surrounds that, Limassol took the lead on I think it was midway through the first half, and the second game running, we were caught by a long ball upfield. Both centre-halves failed to deal with it, and the opposing striker goes on to score. Now, for me, when Clement came in, I felt like one of the things that he seemed to do quickest was kind of make us look competent in defence. We weren't seeing, too many horror shows or kind of individual errors that we'd seen previously. But is it a bit of a concern for you that that's 2 games in a row we've conceded essentially the same goal but with 2 different centre-back pairings?
Yeah, because it's meaning so much. It's costing us. It's cost us 2 points in each of those games. I was saying to Craig last week that we come back from the international break before the game against Aberdeen, that we'd only lost 1 goal in each of the 3 different competitions that Clement had been in charge of us in. And none of them cost us. The one draw we had in those first 7 games, the one time we didn't win was a 0-0 in Prague. So even when we were conceding goals, although we pushed it a bit close for the Hearts game at Ibrox, we got 2 late goals to turn it round. They weren't costing us. They're costing us now. And I thought last night, and they're costing us because we're blunt up front at the same time. And that sums up everything that was happening last night. I think these injuries, I think that the players that we're lacking and the players that we've got to bring in and plug up the gaps, that's a problem just now. It's too weak. We don't have the depth of squad. We've got the numbers, which makes it more confusing, I think, at times, but we don't have the depth. And I think you saw the goal we conceded last night. I know Cantwell, we'll talk about him particularly. He definitely played his part. It was something he'd done just a few minutes earlier, where he's trying to kind of pirouette and what have you in the middle of the park, and he's losing the ball, basically. But I think you've then got your 2 sitting midfielders are so far advanced, which they maybe need to be to help the attack. I think the manager had set them out last night to blow Aris away. I was actually quite impressed watching it back with our tempo for the first, basically up until Aris scored. We were trying to pound them, but we weren't doing it quick. The execution was poor. And I think as part of that, trying to make that get sharper was pushing up John Lundstrom, pushing up Cifuentes, and the two of them were caught when Aris took the ball off Cantwell. And it's that exact same thing. It's the exact same goal, mate. I know it seems really basic. Corcoran is doing the same as, what was the guy's name? The guy who plays for Aberdeen, who came deep and nodded it on. Saklov. That's the fella. And Corcoran did the same thing last night. He's like a kind of a weird Ida Good Johnson. He's a small Ida Good, and he did the same thing. I saw Ida Good Johnson playing a couple of times for Iceland against Scotland at Hampden. First time he was a Chelsea player, just a new Chelsea player. Second time he'd been to Barcelona and that, he was a lot older. So he was coming deeper because he couldn't really get that far forward at times, but he was causing havoc. And it was the same thing with that boy last night. He just comes deep and he pushes it on, and the faster fella, Babika, runs in behind. And it seems like a really basic goal, really critical to split our centre halves. And it's two different centre half pairings, 2 games in a row. But it's really basic for our centre halves to mark it as well. They just need to do the basic stuff. The old thing of one goes for the ball, the other one falls back to cover. And the fact that we couldn't do that. So I think it's three key areas of cost us with that goal last night. And it might be the same with Pittodrie on Sunday. I can't remember that just as well. I need to look back at that again. But it is a big concern that it seems to be a really basic move that's costing us these goals. And the goals that we are conceding are costing us in terms of material, costing us in terms of points.
You mentioned Cantwell's part in that goal that we lost earlier there, and from what I hear from people on Twitter, Clement seemed to be absolutely furious on the sidelines when he lost possession there, and I think potentially that contributed to the fact that he was subbed in the 35th minute. For me, I was surprised. I wasn't expecting Cantwell to be one that go off. If I had to pick somebody that was going to go off at that point, I would have probably said it would have been Lammers, but the manager chose to take off Cantwell. What did you make of manager's decision to remove Cantwell at that point? And I guess, where do you stand on Cantwell overall? There seems to be almost 2 camps forming in the Rangers support around Cantwell at the minute. There's the camp that kind of think that his attitude's not great. There was a few people saying that it was mentioned online and things last night that the manager was trying to give him messages and he was maybe being a bit dismissive. The messages the manager was trying to give him, and then so they're kind of saying that his attitude's not great and he's obviously not been in great form this season. And then there's the other camp sort of saying that he's playing out of position, kind of what do you expect when he's getting kind of shunted out to the right side of the midfield. So there's kind of 2 camps forming a bit on Cantwell. What's your thoughts on the whole situation?
Yeah, last night I just found it was a quelle dramatique. It was very what a moment this is. I had noticed him. I just noticed a couple of things that he'd done wrong when I'm actually in the ground. And apart from anything else, it was absolutely Baltic last night. It's called just to be at football for a while. So your concentration isn't there. You're just thinking this isn't working. You're getting a bit frustrated. But I noticed because it was what he did right in front of me. I think it's just before he went off after we're a goal down, where he's trying to control the ball and he's kind of facing the east enclosure, and Tav's coming up to support him, and he tries a wee back flick and it just goes straight out of play. I don't know what else he was supposed to do there, but that just seemed to compound his whole performance. That might have been the last thing he did before he was taken off, and that was a moment I thought, no, that he's definitely got that wrong. Cantwell. Before that, I'm just the same as I'm just kind of observing the game and knowing that generally we're not doing the best. And I'm not really diagnosing it properly, or really, I'm not really able to diagnose it properly. I'm not exactly a football tactics or a football skills expert, but I remember Lammers having that fresh air shot about 5-6 minutes into the game as well when the ball comes to him, and I thought it was at the edge of the box, but like the 18-yard box. When I watch it back today, though, as I say, I was really interested to watch it back. I think it all becomes really apparent that Cantwell is at fault, I think. And I know exactly what you mean about the whole the Rangers support. We can't just discuss stuff. It's got to be, you go into your camps totally polarised and everybody's at each other. But I think the manager doesn't think that way. He's thinking, Todd Cantwell, you can't hold your position properly, and he needs fast, direct football. He needs the ball to be getting moved quickly. We didn't undo Aris Limassol. We didn't get goals past them early doors like the manager obviously wanted us to, because things were breaking down players weren't moving the ball, and Cantwell was the worst offender, and then it then gets worse, and Cantwell is giving the ball away in key positions. It's not his fault, the goal. It's not wholly his fault, but it starts with him. As I say, he'd done it beforehand. There's 2 moments last night in that first half hour, but just before Aris scored, where there's balls whipped across, basically from outside the box into the penalty spot by us. But I think one of them's definitely Sima. The other one is Lammers, and it's Sima or Danilo just fails to get on the end of them. I can't remember the exact personnel that were on trying to get in the end of them, the exact striker that tried to get in the end of them, but it was definitely Sima, and the other one was definitely Lammers that were whipping this ball in first time, and the centre-half just gets there in time. And the reason Lammers stays on the park is because Lammers has that fresh air shot in the first 5-6 minutes, but he's having a shot straight away. He's trying to put the ball in the back of the net as soon as it comes to him. He's playing it quick. He's playing it first time. That's why they're whipping these balls into the box first time. Cantwell isn't doing that. I'm sorry to go on about this, mate, but I think it bears, because of the arguments that are going on, it bears a bit of analysis. There's a point on about maybe 12th minute or something where Cantwell is exactly where he should be according to the tactics board, as it would have been, drawn out by the manager before the game. He's just in line with the corner of the 18-yard box. He's on the right-hand side, between right winger and inside right, and he gets the ball, and he's got Lammers to his inside, and overlapping, you've got Tav to his right-hand side, both in acres of space in dangerous positions, and Rangers have moved that ball at a brilliant pace to get it to that point. And Todd Cantwell instead faces up the defender in front of him and tries to dribble through him. I think Alec McCoy talks about it in commentary as well. He's got 2 options there, and he hasn't gone with either of them. He's slowing things down. That's not how the manager wants to play it. Sam Lammers cannot execute. Sam Lammers has got a terrible touch in front of goal, but he's holding his position, which maintains the shape. All the players up front are drifting all over the place. They're supposed to. But Cantwell is drifting into the inside all the time and then going right over the other wing. He's given away a free kick when he could just have taken the ball off their right back over on their left-hand side. He's holding up plays, holding up a Rangers attack. He's ruining it. He's giving them an out. And there's also, I think the first chance, was it 6-7 minutes, whatever, the first chance that Aris managed to carve out in the game, which gives him a foothold in the game. Jack Butland has that save at his post that's a corner. It's their left back who's the shot. That breaks down for us when I think it's Danilo is trying to play the ball up to Cantwell, who's on the left wing. And just as they work it down the park straight away, they play it across our box. The left back has a shot, and Tav's just trying to face him down. And you see, just as the guy's having the shot, Cantwell suddenly arriving on the scene, too late, yards away from it. And they've got the guy Bengtsson on the left wing, the best player in the other game against them over in Cyprus, the number 7, the Swedish fella. He the 2 assists that night. He's a real threat, and the manager would need Cantwell to hold his line, to hold his position, so he can give Tav a hand on that left-hand side as well. He's got to be able to run these guys down. He wants to, Todd Cantwell. He thinks he can do everything, and I think he's a cracking player. We weren't imagining how he played towards the end of last season. I don't care if we were out of most competitions, a lot of the games didn't count, as folk are saying. He's a bloody good player, and he is great at 10. The manager himself admits that, but he's been asked to do a certain job, because it's all about... the manager can get something out of Lammers. Enough of Lammers will play in his position and he will move the ball first time. Whereas Cantwell isn't doing that, and everything's breaking down. And you saw the difference it made when McCausland come on, because he was, and even wee Ross was getting interviewed after the game. He's just saying, I was told to be direct and go wide, just to play it wide. The manager said to himself, we don't want them coming in the middle. They're dangerous through the middle, as their goal proved, Aris Limassol. So we need to be stretching them out both wings, and Cantwell just wasn't doing what he was told, and he had to come off. And it wasn't vindictive. It's a bad moment for Cantwell, but the manager has gone up to him and he's trying to shake hands with him and all that. He didn't want to do it, but he knew he had to do it, and I'd been more scared, I think, if he hadn't done it. But it is strange, because Cantwell is better at 10 than Lammers. But I think I can see what the manager's trying to do, and I can certainly see why he took him off.
You mentioned there kind of Lammers' inability to execute. He's kind of one of 2 players that I wanted to speak to you about, the other one being Jose Cifuentes. Now, both had really poor nights for me, and neither have made an impact since arriving. To be quite honest, many fans have, at this point, written Lammers off, judging by the the reaction of the crowd when he was substituted last night. Do you feel that it's now unrecoverable for Lammers and on Cifuentes? He's not had as many minutes as Lammers. He's obviously coming back from the injury, but I think it's fair to say he's also not taking his chance when he's played. Do you think for him is it a case of maybe struggling to adapt? He's obviously coming to a new league. We've seen players struggle coming from the MLS before. In terms of James Sands comes to mind in terms of a player that came here for the MLS and just struggled to adapt. I think that might be the case with Cifuentes as well.
He hardly played at all in the first 7 games that the manager was in charge, the new manager was in charge. So he's not had a chance to get his match fitness up, I wouldn't think, apart from anything else. I think he's picked up wee knocks and that as well, maybe when he was away in international duty. Yeah. This is a guy this time last year was playing at the World Cup. You know, that doesn't always mean anything because about 1 million countries qualify for the World Cup these days, but he was away in the World Cup with a decent nation in Ecuador. I think he played a couple of games anyway, or come on as a sub or something like that. He's not just one of these, the MLS is full of guys who are kind of like domestiques would be in the Tour de France, where they're just there to kind of make up the numbers and support the big guys. But I think he played at a decent level. MLS, he was a vital player. I was a bit concerned when Michael Beale mentioned that his English wasn't the best. I don't understand how when he's playing MLS, I know there's a lot of Spanish players in there. Maybe a lot of Spanish speaking players. Maybe they're making it too easy for him not to have to learn the language. Says me, I couldn't speak. I can barely speak English, but as part of being part of a squad and all that, and being part of the team, you would think his English would be better. But he's definitely a yard off it last night. He's a yard off everything. And sometimes it was worse when he was trying harder to make up for it because he was giving away fouls and stuff like that. I know there'd be VAR decision. By the way, best performer last night was UEFA VAR. Having a look, potential red card, check over. Didn't even know it happened until I watched it the day in the telly, and it was unbelievable. And so that's the way we're heading with VAR. It will get better. But I just thought, he's definitely off it, mate. I'm concerned about him. I find that I can't really properly judge him until he's in a proper run of games, but he's getting to the stage. I don't know how many games that's going to be. Is he just never going to get any better? He's not looking good just now. Is he supposed to be a sitting midfielder? Is he supposed to be, ironically, kind of wide right midfield? I heard that somewhere.
I'm not entirely sure I can't really place him as what type of midfielder he is. He doesn't appear to be particularly creative in terms of he's not a 10. He doesn't appear to be like a true defensive midfielder.
So you think
type.
That makes it worse then? If that's the case, you think he should have honed the game. If he's a defensive mid, he should be able to do a much better shift. Give us a much better shift than what he's put in the last couple of games, sitting beside John Lundstrom. So I don't know. It is a concern. It really is. And Lammers, I don't get it. I don't see it. But watching it again, I see moments. There's a chance. I think it's the build up to the one shot we had on goal really that kind of counted in the whole first half. Lundstrom has that shot, which Todd Cantwell lays off to him. Back to goals. I kind of 1-2 with Todd Cantwell, where Cantwell plays the ball first time, one touch, like what the manager would have wanted him to have done. And Lundstrom has a shot, but I think it is Lammers who cuts the ball back from the byline. He puts in a power of work. I mean, as I say, he holds his line and he will move the ball quickly and move it first time. But there's been other times in Sam Lammers' short ranger's career where he's just looked abject, just looked like a guy who doesn't know how to play football, and that's coming for me. So I'm trusting the manager here. I'm trusting that the manager sees something. I know, and by the way, I can't see that. I'm not clever enough to do two things at one time. So I'm not looking at the live comments coming in. I know sometimes it upsets people. I know people will be definitely, how can you possibly think that Todd Cantwell shouldn't be playing at 10 instead of Lammers? And sometimes I know that if I just keep talking the same way, people think I've seen their comments and I'm winding them up by ignoring them. I'm not, honestly, folks. I'm just trying to put forward my case, because I know it's something that's winding people up, that Cantwell's not getting moved into play at 10. Why is Lammers getting a game? And my thing is just, the manager will know. There's no way he's going to make his own life harder, Philip Clement, by continually playing Lammers if he doesn't see something there, if it's about the balance to the team, the balance of the team. So, he's played 4 different Italian teams, Eintracht Frankfurt. I think he's got 1 goal for each of them. It's just, it is a real puzzle for me at times. The only thing I can think of is his positioning last night, and then see, even last Sunday, he's getting slagged for that miss against Aberdeen. But up until that point in the second half, we'd put in a lot of crosses in the box, and there was nobody getting on the end of them. No point in getting on the end of them if you can't actually put them away. but you can see maybe the manager's thinking, your positioning's great. I wish you could your cutting edge will come, So I don't know, mate. I fear for both of them, but I thought the treatment of Lammers when he get substituted off last night, after he knew what was going on, obviously, with the Cantwell thing. Some of the abuse he was getting was totally out of order, and for Rangers fans to cheer a Rangers player being substituted off, it's up to you. You pay your money, But personally, I thought it was horrible. That's something I would never say never, but as far as I'm concerned, I would never do that. And it was horrible. I didn't think it was fair on the guy, and it certainly doesn't help him get any better if he is going to be played.
Yeah, it's kind of getting to the stage with Lammers for me, but you kind of feel sorry for him. He didn't pay the transfer fee or decide to sign himself, and it's clear he's not at the level that he needs to be for me. And again, that's not massively his fault in terms of who chose to sign him and things.
It was that moment last night, Brian, when Ross McCausland, we saw McCausland is getting stripped and he's coming on, and it was like in a movie. The whole place is holding its breath. What number is going to go up on that board for coming off? And there's guys in front of me going, please be Lammers, please be Lammers, please. Wasn't it come up to 13? And the place, a lot of people kind of erupted, but it wasn't everybody, But it's a bad situation when you're feeling sorry for one of your own players.
Yeah, the last thing I wanted to touch on, the way from our review of last night's game, was the one bright spot for me was young Ross McCausland, who came on and made a massive impact. Obviously signed his new contract midweek, gets his goal last night, which gets us the point, first goal for the club. I've been massively impressed with his overall play, and he's very direct in terms of loves to take his man on. And the thing that impresses me most of all about him is that if it doesn't come off the first time, he's not phased and he'll go straight back and have another goal. For you, is he now making that right wing position his own, and should he now be starting more frequently?
No, I don't think I don't even know if there is a right wing position as such to be made. I think the manager would prefer somebody who can come in a bit. I think it would be Scott Wright. Would be the ideal choice just now for Philippe Clement. But I was so pleased for him, mate. I was so pleased for Ross McCausland, and it's somebody he's trying his heart out, giving it his all. I'm very wary with young players coming through. We've seen a lot of them down the years. We'll talk about Barry Ferguson wasn't going to get his chance under Walter. That's become a bit of a kind of meme. And then in came Dick Advocaat and just built the team around him and blah blah blah. But it's few and far between the times that's happened. Players coming up through the ranks. They tend to kind of fade away. You get your big successes, Alan Hutton, and recently Nathan Patterson, what have you. But I'm very, very cautious with young players coming through. This time last year, I was up at Firhill watching Ross McCausland scoring a couple of goals against Ajax youths in the UEFA Youth League before going down the road, and they beat us 6-2 before going off to Ibrox to see the full Ajax team beating us 3-1. So happy days. It's not as bad as that last season, but he's improved. He's taken a hold of his chance. He sees it with both hands. He's done really well. And it was good also. They were worried that the goal he scored against Livingston, it was disallowed. Was that going to be the final chance he'd have to score for Rangers? Well, no, he certainly did the business last night. He could have had another couple as well. But I think he was magnificent when he came on. And I don't know, again, he came on, was it maybe quarter of an hour to go, 12 minutes at Pataudry. Same last night, even though it was only 35 minutes into the game. I don't know how much of the way he played is because he's coming on as a sub. The impact he had, and he played really well at St Mirren. He played it, and he was on for the start against Livingston, wasn't he? So at Almondvale. So you can't say he's just an impact player. He's a sub, but when he's coming on, and he's a completely different set of dangers from Todd Cantwell, who's just gone off. It's particularly playing against a foreign side who are not used to playing against Todd Cantwell. Then maybe he's benefited from that as well. But take absolutely nothing away from the wee man. He was absolutely fantastic last night, and he's the only reason we're still, we're guaranteed Europe after Christmas anyway. And he was direct, and people are saying, well, you're saying Cantwell was spending too much time trying to dribble instead of moving the ball first time. But when Ross McCausland was doing it, it was when they were on the back foot, when the opposition were on the back foot, and they got into the box, and he's taking them on, getting in and out about through them, using his skillful build to weave between these players. And his goal was lovely, going through the left back's legs. And so he got his jersey at the end of the game as well, which was great for him, a proper scalp. So I'm hoping it's the start of a long, fruitful career. And if he does go on to make that position his own, it's because he's playing brilliant. So I would be more than happy to see that.
Yeah, I'd certainly like to see him start in the upcoming games for sure. Now, before we finish up, we'll give a quick preview for the game on Sunday. St Mirren arrive at Ibrox. For me, seems obvious to say, but this will be a tough game. They're doing really well recently in the league, and they're looking to cement that third place. For us, it's all got to be about getting back to winning ways, surely.
Absolutely, aye. It's got to be all about us on Sunday. You're absolutely correct. And I think with Stephen Robinson, we've always, well, for me anyway, I'm mentally scarred by that League Cup semi-final when he was in charge of Motherwell, when he physically scarred our players, and I've always wanted to have some sort of revenge on him. And when you see where they are in the league just now, they're just 6 points behind us in third place. And the last time we went to play them, they could have overtaken us in the table. I think they could have went second that day if it had all gone pear-shaped. But it's actually quite surprising that the last 3 times we've played them, we've beaten them by 3 clear goals. This time last year we were drawn. It's at St Mirren, and that was Gio Dunn. That was the end of his Rangers management career. So it's quite weird. They seem to be doing well against them when they're doing so well against everybody else, and we're having our slip-ups. It's not been against St Mirren. Touchwood, it's going to be the same thing. I was quite glad on Tuesday night that they lost the kind of battle of the ex-Morecambe managers up at Ross County. They lost to a late goal, so I hope they've had more time to stew on their bad result, and it's maybe put them a bit of a downer, whereas I think hopefully just having a few days between our bad performance and bad result last night, the Rangers players will be absolutely delighted to have a chance to redeem themselves so quickly.
Yeah, hopefully they're viewing it as a chance to get back to winning ways and put a few wrongs right. Now, for me, this is going to be one of the most interesting team lineups of the season after all the drama of last night. How do you think the manager's going to line up?
See, this is what I mean, mate, about passive-aggressive questions. This is like, in my house, I've just learned that the most passive-aggressive thing you can do in a marriage now is just say, get the TV remote control and go, there you are, dear. You pick something for us both to watch on the television. You got 50-odd channels and you can't find any, that's going to suit both of you. And this is the poison chalice. How do you think we're going to line up? Cheers, mate. I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. It's just, I missed the end of the presser, the actual presser in Ibrox. Post-match last night. I've not watched it yet, so I don't know if there was any injury updates. I've missed that. I'm so busy processing the Cantwell and McCausland, Lammers kind of trifecta of over-emotion that I've not had a chance to see what the actual state of play is. But Connor Golson's back. I think he goes straight back in. The two of them, Golson and Balogun, must have been the most delighted Rangers players last night. Saying, they've done worse than us. They've done exactly the same thing, but they did it at Ibrox. This is fine. We're straight back in there on Saturday. But I think the one thing that's going to guarantee a bad result sometimes affects ticket sales, but the one thing that's going to guarantee a packed Ibrox on Sunday is everybody turning up to see what happens at 10. That is the big thing. Tom Lawrence, is he going to be in there for the start? Again, Mr. Direct. That was the thing. The goal we scored at Livingston, the Dessers goal at Livingston, Tom Lawrence, just the ball straight along the deck to him. That's what the manager wants. Beat a few guys, knock a long ball, we're in there. He likes direct football. So he was saying the post-match special last night that he's looking after Lawrence because he's coming back from long-term injury. So maybe he's going to be back in for a start on Sunday. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with these guys whose wives are having babies, or is Dessers is it actually him that's pregnant? That's why we've not seen him hiding her hair. Maybe this is coming from a guy who looks like he's expecting triplets, but I don't know what's happening. Is Dessers going to get a run out? But they did. We beat them 3-0 last time we played them. A wee victory for Stephen Davis's Rangers. That was quite unexpected on the day, or in a bad way, following a bad result against Aris Limassol. So same kind of scenario this time. And I just hope whoever the manager picks, they take out the angst of last night on the Paisley Pandas.
Yeah, I'll certainly be refreshing my Twitter feed about 2:00 on Sunday afternoon continuously, just to see that tweet from Rangers, to see the team lineups drop.
Absolutely.
It's certainly going to be one of the most eagerly anticipated team lineups we've had for a while. Before we finish up, Alex, give me a score prediction.
Yeah, And never mind passive. This is just outright aggression. This is aggressive aggression, active aggression. Craig does this to me as well, mate. It's a. You're looking for a tabloid answer to a broadsheet question. I think. What the hell? It's just. I'm just going to predict what I want. This is what we all do. We always predict what we want to happen, and I can't deal with anything other than a Rangers victory. And I'll say that we turn it all around. We get back on the big baldy Belgian bus on Sunday with another 3-goal win over the Buddies.
That'll do me nicely. I'll take that all day long. Right, I think we'll call it time there. All that's left for me to do is thank my guest, Alex. Thanks as always.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. As always, guys, we've been live tonight on the YouTube channel, but the show will be available on all podcasting platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Acast, Stitcher, in the coming days, and we would ask that you leave us a rating on your preferred podcasting app. They'll probably be back on Sunday evening to look back on the weekend's match. Until next time, bye for now.